I would.
Welcome to Exit Point. This is Lo, and with me is Matt Blank. We've been wanting to showcase Sarah Taz on the podcast, not just because she's a top-tier wingsuit base athlete, or because of her colorful background, or for the work that she continues to do in the community for Moab, but now because she's earned the most exclusive title in base jumping, Fallen Angel.
When we say fallen angel, we're talking about people who have gone past the point that should be survivable, in the death zone so firmly that their consciousnesses are in the process of detaching from their body and preparing for transcendence. And figuratively, standing at the pearly gates, waiting for St. Peter, and then by a combination of genius skill, incredible luck, and divine intervention combined, got pulled out of that line and sent back to Earth to hang out with us. And so I think we're incredibly lucky to even get the opportunity to talk to Taz. And before we get into her amazing story, I'd love to just get a little bit of a brush on her character. Lo, how would you describe Sarah Taz?
Well, anyone who has read Taz's story in the Great Book of Base knows she's had quite a harrowing journey through base jumping and is now legit an elite flyer. Her story reminds me of a quote from Hunter S. Thompson. Luck is a very thin wire between survival and disaster, and not many people can keep their balance on it. Now, I say that in the most flattering sense possible. She is a skillful line walker.
I agree with you, and I think that is a great compliment. In my book, somebody who walks the line is somebody who knows it's all on the line and plays it like there's nothing to lose. And so I'm excited to get into her about what that is like and what her experience was going over the line.
Without further ado, let's get Taz on the track.
So welcome to the podcast, Taz. Before we get into the story, we want to flash forward, and can you give us the condensed version of what just went down?
Yeah, I can say it in just a few words. I basically just went in. I hit the mountain in flight with nothing out.
And survived.
I guess so, since I'm here talking.
Yeah, obviously. What were the extent of the injuries?
I tried to lose my nose and slightly took it off my face, and I'm missing a few teeth, as well as a decent concussion that I took 3 weeks to recover from. But that's it. I didn't have a scratch or a bruise on my body.
Wow, this is amazing. No, let's before we get into the nitty-gritty, for the listeners, let's flash back and talk a little bit about who you are and how and why you got into base jumping.
Whew. I'm gonna try to make this relatively short. I went to Burning Man. I got on an observer ride. I saw people skydive. I was mind blown. I wanted to come back and do the same. So I signed up for my A license. And as I just got done with my AFF, one of the TI instructor called Kevin asked me if I wanted to ground crew, which was Chinese to me back then. I had no idea what that meant. Then he told me he wanted to jump from a bridge. So I asked him if he was going to skydive from the bridge. And I had no idea. And I got there, and we started getting closer as I drove him there. I was supposed to just drop him off at the Auburn Bridge and pick him up at the bottom. But I was so excited that he asked me to come and watch him jump and come on the steel of the bridge with him. And I almost followed him off with no rigs on. And I was hooked. I knew that's what I wanted.
Wait, what do you mean you almost followed him off? Yeah.
I literally almost jumped. You know this French expression? I don't know why in English there's nothing to describe this, but you know this feeling you get sometimes when you're standing on the edge and you're scared that you're going to jump, even though you don't have a rig on, but something like sucks you in. In French, it's got a name, and it's called l'appel du vide, which means the calling of the void. And I guess I got it real hard because I almost fucking jumped off right behind him.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I get that experience a lot too. When I have to remind myself, you're not wearing a rig right now. Can you say
Yeah.
that phrase again from French? That's good. I'm going to try and steal that one.
L'appel du vide.
L'appel du
L'appel du
vide.
vide. The
The
call of the
calling of the
void.
void. So
The
that's
calling of the void, yeah.
is that why you got into base jumping then? The void called you?
Yeah, like literally, I was like, oh, cool. I belong here. I need to do this. Like, there was no question. I had to. I lived in London. I was actually working in music videos there, and I was married, and I had a cat, and I was wearing super nice clothes, and I was like, I need to throw all of this in the garbage and start base jumping.
Well, yeah, while we're on that topic, can you take us through like your upbringing and then your travel from Europe to the United States?
So I was born in Paris, and I was born and raised there, and I was there all the way until my 22nd or 23rd birthday, something like that, when I decided, because of a lot of reasons, one, the fact that I absolutely hated Paris and Parisians. Number two, that I didn't speak English, and I really felt like I should learn because it's a life skill. And then I wanted something more fun, and I used to always go to London to just go rave and party, and I thought people were super open-minded there and cool. And so a boy broke my heart too, which helped run away, and I ran away to London. And then I learned English because I had no choice. I lived there. And I started working as a graphic designer and doing music videos and all sorts of things that I can't really explain on the podcast. And then I went to Burning Man, and went through that A license whole circle of fast forward back to the Auburn Bridge, and yeah, London was out of my mind at that point. All I needed was to go there, grab the things I needed, and move back to the US.
I have a similar story. When I started base jumping, I knew that this was something that I needed to live full time, and I completely 180'd my life to live that dream. And so I totally understand. I think that my onboarding to base jumping was a little bit different, but I totally understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does it. Base jumping's pretty strong. I feel like it kind of like grabs you deep.
And I'm
So
always more excited to jump with jumpers that I feel called to base jump. Somehow they're less scary to jump with than the ones who are still like testing the waters. Like those ones, it almost feels like there's a little bit more risk involved than the people like you and Lo who have come to the sport having like been compelled to jump off the cliff. And it's like, well, I mean, if you're compelled to do it, I, I have
yeah,
no
for
arguments
sure.
against. That's just who you are.
What did you think of skydiving? I mean, because you used that as a vehicle to get into base, as it sounds like.
Uh, yeah, I had zero interest in it after discovering base jumping. Because I feel like skydiving, um, it takes a minute to be good, and before you're good, it's like not that cool. It's okay, it's fun, but like it's not like the most pleasant experience. I don't love the plane ride. I don't love how brutal it is outside the door, how loud everything is and stuff. So don't get me wrong. I liked it. I had fun, but after tasting bass, I was like, I'm just gonna do that. That's way more my jam. It's quiet. It's peaceful. You're alone. There's literally nothing but just you. And yeah, I love that.
So now that we're back onto base jumping, maybe you can take us through some notable events in your base career, which is pretty storied. Any moments stick out to you as like those
I it
landmark moments?
it's unfortunate because I feel I love base jumping. It's brought so much joy and magic in my life. But I feel like the most memorable moments are also like not so fun moments. um, I mean, as soon as I got into it, the person I was with died. So I would say um, that was a pretty significant moment in my career, even though my career was very short back then. So
Can you take us through that story a little bit? I know that it's in the Great Book of Bass, which I highly encourage anyone to read, and especially the story of Taz, which is incredible. Can you take us through the points that
yeah.
Kevin is featured in?
So I guess Kevin got in the picture early on because he's that TI who asked me to ground crew for him. So he's the one who made me discover bass, and I guess got me into it by. I'll have to say a little more about the story, I guess. So we met in California at Skydance Skydiving while I was getting my A license. He got me to ground crew. I decided I wanted to base jump. I asked him what I had to do so, and he told me that the day I had 100 skydives, he will take me to a bridge that was legal to jump from in Idaho. And so shortly after that, I was supposed to fly back home to London. I definitely did not want to. And he didn't work too hard in convincing me to miss my flight and follow him to Moab for my first skydiving boogie, as well as discovering basically the base jumping mecca of the United States. So, yeah, I did miss my flight, and I jumped in the van with them, and we drove all the way to Moab. And as soon as we drove in, I knew that was it. I knew this place was home. I can't explain why. I have no idea. Like, especially for someone who grew up in Paris and lived in London, why Moab? I have no idea. But that was the place I wanted to be at. I fell in love immediately. I did that boogie. I started ground crewing a lot. Long story short, I made it back briefly to the UK to get rid of my life. I came back. I got my 100 skydives as fast as I could, while ground crewing pretty much daily. I learned to base jump reading the Great Book of Bass.
Oh wow!
And I bought a bass rig, and I went to the bridge when I actually did not really have 100 skydive, but I was pretty close. And he took me there for a weekend. He helped me out. I ended up kind of ditching him because he was more scared than me and I couldn't take it. And so I did a bunch of solos, and we moved to Moab together because we had become a thing. And we moved in the Dropzone staff house, and we started base jumping in Moab. And very rapidly, I mean, after 3 days of jumping here, we headed to Mineral Bottom to do a few jumps that day. And as all the stories where something happened with base jumping, it was a series of events. He didn't really want to go. He was tired. His legs were hurting from hiking too much. He was about to start his skydiving season and was worried about not feeling strong. And he was just not that motivated. But a Russian friend came to the house and they helped me convince him. And we went there and we did a jump of Mary's Gash, which went really well. And then we wanted to go to Sweet Spot but could not find it. And I found a different exit, which turns out to be Enterprise. And I wanted to jump that. And he didn't want me to. He didn't think the jump was good enough. And he went and explored solo. And then came back super happy to have found Sweet Spot and took us there. And Sweet Spot actually happened to be the place where his really close friend who had recently died base jumping had done his first double gainer, something Kevin was working on. He was only doing singles. Fun fact, when we were at the bridge, I told him, you should start practicing your doubles. And he was too scared of doing it at the bridge. But decided that, Sweet Spot is a great spot to learn. So he did, and he tried to do it exactly like his friend Daniel used to do it, which is tuck the first rotation and kind of lay it out the second. And when he laid it out, he stalled it. And instead of doing a barrel roll or pitching on his back, he's just stick with it. And by the time he was back belly to earth, he screamed, "Oh shit!" And that was it. He died.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
So many love stories like that in the community.
What an introduction.
Sorry about that. I guess it's like it happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
No, I mean,
And it was the
it happens, yeah. And we
no,
always
it was it's I guess I discovered the reality of bass like very fast because I probably had 14, 15 jumps at that point. So it was an interesting welcome.
yeah, that's a steep learning curve. Most of us just hear about acquaintances going in first and then maybe like lose a friend or two, but we don't actually see it. And a lot of us never actually see somebody go in, and a lot of us never lose somebody that's that close. But man, that kind of loss right out of the gate, what did that do to you when it came to like your mentality, getting close to other jumpers and continuing to jump yourself?
At very first, I was a complete mess. Um, I do have a belief that when something that extreme happens to you, you kind of like temporarily go slightly insane because it's just hard to make sense of that, and suddenly it's just hard to make sense of everything and anything. And so at first I was just a mess and I could not believe it. I just keep telling myself I couldn't believe it. I kept calling his name really loud in the house, thinking he was going to walk through the door. I So he used to be, fun fact, he used to be celiac, so he used to only drink 100% agave tequila, and he drank 1800, and that was his jam. And so I decided to start drinking every day. And I actually emptied the liquor store in Moab of all their 1800. And yeah, I just drank and drank and drank, and I was too drunk to pack. And started wanting to jump like pretty fast. I think on day 3 I wanted to jump again, or day 4, really early. It feels like definitely the first week, and I couldn't pack. I was way too wasted. And someone I didn't know and never met before just rolled into my house because I lived at the staff house, and people just rolled into the house, packed for me, and took me to G Spot. And I jumped, and I was wasted, and I exited very poorly and very head low. And I was handheld, and I didn't really want to let go of my parachute, and I thought about not letting go of it. And then I actually didn't want to, but my body kind of did it by reflex, by itself, for survival, who knows. And I did, and I was in such a terrible body position that I bridle wrapped my leg, at which point I decided I didn't care. And then that cleared itself, and I landed, and I was like, that was fucked up. I should leave town for a minute. And I left town because I knew that I was going to just keep making like a series of bad decisions, but the desire to jump didn't go away. And I just went to California to skydive and base jump some more. And funny enough, it never took the love or the fun away.
I'm curious, when you wanted to jump right away again, you said it was 3 days later. I mean, you were in shock and, obviously really upset. Do you remember if you wanted to jump to get a certain feeling back, or was it, base jumping can be extremely distracting. It's a super intense experience, and, no matter what's going on in your life, it sort of just disappears for moments. Is that what you were looking for, or were you feeling suicidal through base jumping, or do you remember?
I don't really remember, just because I was literally such a goddamn mess. Like, I literally was sleepless for days, completely alcoholic, half crazy. I think I I feel though nothing was that elaborate about it, that like going into the motion of doing something and just doing it because I had just go through so much to just fucking base jump. And I was like, I should fucking do it because here I am now and all that shit. And I'm here for that. And I think it was just let's go, let's carry on. Even though I was definitely suicidal, I don't think it came to my mind. Even though it came to my mind during the jump and it was coming to my mind sometimes, it didn't come to my mind to really be like, let's go base jump to die. That's not what happened.
It was more like, hey, let's go ahead and get normal again.
Yeah, let's go do the thing that you wanted to do, that was making you so happy, that you just started and was the most exciting thing in your life with Kevin.
Yeah, to feel closer to the person that you lost, I think is a common thread. And also, like, I mean, you get wrapped up in these empathetic, deep connections with somebody, and all of a sudden they're gone. It's hard to commune with them without considering, ending your life too.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely like, I think the thing is, I fell in love with bass. It grabbed me from the inside. I physically felt it grab me. And I think that Kevin's death just didn't kill the love. And I still wanted to go and carry on and try to get on with my day, and keep going.
What do you think he would have wanted?
I think he would have been very proud. And I think he has been in my mind ever since I met him. And it's been so many years now that he passed away and it hasn't gone away. And every time I achieve something pretty cool within the sport or just something that we had discussed together, I'm like, oh, he's watching and he's goddamn proud. And I think there was a lot of that too, like, carry on because he's watching you and he's fucking proud.
Nice. That's beautiful. So, obviously a very intense beginning to your career. Can you step us around and just give us some of the highlights from there onto your approach to wingsuit bass? Because, I mean, I've run across you all over the world. So can you give us a little bit of a fast forward through those sections?
Well, I kept going. I kept jumping. I kept learning. I got more and more passionate and excited about it. I decided that, I wanted to touch to every aspect of the sport. So the sport is not just running off a cliff in Moab or an antenna or a building and going slider down. I wanted to go terminal. I wanted to start tracking. I knew I wanted to wingsuit. So I kept going with that progression. I traveled the world. I met some insanely awesome people everywhere. I have so many good friends and close friends, and it blows my mind. I never had such connection ever before in my life. They are like so awesome and so deep because of all the shit we go through. And I did beautiful trip. I have literally traveled the world for it.
Give us the top 3 countries that you've been to for base jumping, like top of your list.
So now that I wingsuit, best flying, the Alps, Europe. So far with what I've done, I haven't gone yet to like places like New Zealand. There's definitely places I haven't been to, but so far what I've seen, what I've done, the kind of flying I like, by far the Alps, amazing, mind-blowing. I'm in love with all of it. But then kind of my best trips are not necessarily Europe. I feel like I do my best work in Europe. I love it there. But I went to Brazil a few years ago. My first time was in 2018, 2017 actually, the end of 2017. And I had just started wingsuiting in Europe. I had done my first season in my little Swift. And I couldn't stop there. I was like, fuck, I just started. I can't just sit down till next season now. So I was like, where could I go this winter? And I was like looking at base jumping stuff online, and so these pictures of the the ramps at Cabreto, where they did the tracking race from. And I was like, fuck, this place look cool. Where is that? So I started making research, discovered it was in Brazil, started Googling, messaging some people, got a few contacts in Brazil, and just decided to go check it out for 2 weeks. And I actually checked it out for 2 months. Because I couldn't leave after 2 weeks. There was no way. And it was literally one of my best trips still. And it's not necessarily like, as far as the line or the actual jump goes, is it the best exit you've ever been on? No, but the whole package, the whole experience is so blissful and perfect. It's like, it's nice weather. Brazilian people are so generous, so kind, so fun to be around. They're a little bit the Russians of South America in a base jumping sense, but I love them. They're the kindest, they're the best, they're the most fun. They all treated me like if I belong there. I'm friend with all those people these days, and I still go back. And I went back last winter, and I'm going back in a few weeks. And by far one of the highlights. Incredible trip. Brazil is the shit.
Taz, I'm wondering if we can circle back for a second, because I think that this is something that's really common, is that how deep our connections can become in such a quick amount of time. And what are your thoughts about relationship building, or relationships that we build in base? What are your thoughts on that?
The first word that come to mind is authentic. I feel the majority of people, and basically, like it's like everything else. Is there people I don't enjoy in the scene? Yes. Is there people I think shouldn't be in the scene and don't really like it enough to justify doing it? Yes. But most connections are so real and profound because just the base jump itself, like as comfortable as you get with it, it's a pretty intense and awesome experience. And just going through it every time and those motions and what you go through and that with people gives you a connection that you don't always get. Like it's pretty unique to go through things like that. And then obviously the victories and the losses and all those things, I feel like everything is pretty intense. It's like very extreme highs and very extreme lows. And I feel it creates very real and strong bonds who you connect with.
I like that. I think you said authentic, and that really rings true for me. I think that it might even be like the most authentic experience for humans. I mean, I think what we're designed to do as small tribes, confront danger, work as a team, overcome obstacles, and we sort of get all of that. Have such a disconnected life from danger and our day-to-day activities, and then we go on these little adventures in little bands, little tribes, going to hunt for the treasure at the summit. And there's no lying to each other. There's fear, there's doubt, there's excitement, there's stoke, there's all of these human emotions, and they just all get amplified. And yeah, that's it's very authentic moment for sure.
Yes, more profound.
Yeah. I think there's also an aspect of if you're base jumping and you've been compelled to do it, you're really, leaning into who you are as a person. You're not running from the desire to jump off a cliff, which is regarded by most people as insane. And so if you've made that step to be an authentic person in those pursuits, then it's very hard to not be an authentic person in a relationship or when you're expressing love to one another.
Correct. And you also know that shit happen. Everything's extreme, time's limited. I could be completely crippled tomorrow. I could die. Is it really worth being upset about all this little shit? No, it's not. So therefore the friendship is more like I give strong hugs, I give big kisses, I try to not end on a bad note. I try to focus more on the good feelings and the good stuff than the little shit that don't matter.
Yeah, tell us how many good hugs are you getting right now?
Fucking hell. Endless hugs. Hugs all day I'm getting.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Obviously, like people are hugging you extra strong right now because you were almost one of the list.
I did.
Can you take us through that story? I've heard it a little bit, but Lo hasn't heard any of it. So if you can start from the beginning, uh,
Yeah.
let's roll this thing.
Taz, tell me what happened.
Um,
Let's start from like you planning the jump, or getting word
yes.
of the jump, and try to give us a full picture here, Taz.
Yes. So it started with Plummer, my boyfriend, and I having to take a trip to Salt Lake City because I had an interview for my American citizenship, which is most excellent. I got approved. I'm gonna be American. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
You're winning the visa prize.
Yeah. So anyway, we had to go there. Obviously, we always think about jumping. There is amazing wingsuit jumps in the Wasatch. And so we took our gear with us, planning on jumping if weather allows. And so we got there, we went to my interview. Weather did not really allow for base jumping. The two jumps we really wanted to go to, we were not sure how accessible or nice the exit will be because of it basically dumps snow the day I arrived. And so we bailed on that and we were going to just head home. And at the last minute, we received a message from a friend who was like, hey, what about a heli line tomorrow? And so it's an early line that I've been wanting to do, that I've seen on the video, and I'm always down for something new and a jump. So we're like, of course, cool, let's do it. And we were staying with a friend in Salt Lake at his place that he has there. And this friend has done this line before. And so we discussed the line, we got onto Google Earth. He told us everything he knew about it. He told us about the option A and option B and everything. And we went through it and it seemed like easy enough. And so, yeah, we went. And I basically, Plumber and I assumed that we would be doing a three-way with this friend and we'll both follow him. And it'd just be a conservative fun jump to discover the line and look at it and go back to it later. And we met up early in the hangar where the helicopter was the following day. It was a few of us. Yeah.
Just real quick, on the few of you, just to give everyone kind of a characterization, what is the overall experience of everybody involved here? We know we can't share names, but can you at least give us a sense of who these people are?
Really,
Along with yourself, like what is your like experience with wingsuit base and with
So
helicopter base?
everyone there, my boyfriend Plummer, thousands of jumps, so are the other one. Pretty much one of the person is a relatively new jumper, but everyone experience level is, we're talking like they've been doing that stuff for way longer than I have. And they know all aspects of the sport really well, from skydiving to tunnel flying to wingsuiting to slide, anything, free flying, anything, very high experience level. As far as I'm concerned, I will now consider myself a pretty decent an experienced wingsuit base jumper. I have done it.
You're an elite level wingsuit base jumper. Let's just be fair here.
I do it a lot, and I've done it a while, and I do it everywhere, and I do it all the time, and I am indeed very comfortable with very technical things. Yeah, I have learned everything about it, the laser and this and that, and I love short stuff, and I love technical things, and yeah, I guess I do things that not a lot of people do within that area of the sport. However, wingsuit base jumping has little to do with heli lines. Heli lines are their own thing. I have a feeling that a lot of people assume they're easier. And I have to say I highly disagree with that statement.
Do tell.
Because a base jump, Okay, so let's say you know what you're doing. You've done it a few times. You understand laser, data, all that stuff. You go on an exit, you laser it, it looks like it goes, looks good to you. You can feel the conditions. You've done the hike. During that hike, you might even have had the privilege to observe the line during the whole hike or hike through part of the line or feel the weather, all of this. And then when you exit, there's pretty much one way to go. It's pretty straightforward. Like, it goes, you just measure it, you exit, you do your thing, you fly, you disconnect, you open, you land. Helis. Helis involved now another category of people. It's now, you can't just be jumpers, you also need pilots. How is the communication going to go between these jumpers and these pilots? Are the pilots also jumpers? Do they understand jumping? Do they understand what we need? Do we understand how they function? Do we understand how to communicate with each other about each other's need? So that adds to me like a whole other layer, just that. Having another person who doesn't necessarily understand what we do. And we don't necessarily understand what they do. I'm lucky enough, I hang out around pilots and stuff, but still. So yeah, it brings another thing now, like what if there's high uppers in certain direction, the guy doesn't know how to tell you about it, you don't know how to look at the screens and understand what you're seeing, so you don't know what speed you're going, you're not sure how the exit's going to feel. And there's the spot. Okay, spotting on the skydive. Do you see the drop zone? Yeah, it's right under me. Cool. Go. Let's do it. Let's spot the line. The line is steep. Where do I want to enter it? Where should I be to enter it at the speed and the angle I'd like to enter it at? All of that. All under level of navigation now. Maybe now understanding the condition. All that stuff. So I personally think early lines, base jumping, pretty different. Yes, I feel very dialed with my base jumping now. I have extremely low experience. I would say nil for early lines.
Okay, so I agree with you that heli lines are more complicated, definitely have more variables. And just to set the stage again, we've got a group of professional grade pilots and wingsuiters, along with what we're calling you as an elite wingsuit base jumper. I think that's absolutely fair. I mean, anyone that has done the things that I've seen you do in a wingsuit would certainly be in that category. So we've got an elite wingsuiter being shepherded by professional grade wingsuiters and pilots doing a heli line impromptu, but having already gone through most of the research.
Yes.
Take us from there.
So here we go. We're in the hangar. I think I'm doing it three-way on the line. We looked up. I think I'm following someone that I know really well. I highly trust him. He's conservative too. He's not only extremely talented, he's super clever and conservative. Awesome. Happy days. But we get in the hangar, and to start with, we're all a bit rushed. Everyone has something to do, some places to be, and I already don't like that. And that's tick number one on my list. I'm like, one thing I don't like, because again, I briefly mentioned when I was talking about Kevin accident, I feel personally, I've seen a lot of carnage, a lot of incident, been a lot of shitty loads. It's rarely, never, to me, never just one thing. It's always, one thing, two things, three things. So here we go. Number one, we're all rushing, I don't like it. It's super cold. It's not sunny as I thought it was going to be. I hate being cold. I'm worried I'm going to be cold. I've had 2 not so great pull in the past because of cold hands. I'm genuinely concerned about that and thinking about it. We start gearing up. Plan change. That's number 2 on my list. I don't like that. My boyfriend is not jumping with me anymore. He's been asked to follow someone. And so here we are. And then the person I was going to follow is actually not on my load now. So I'm following someone else. And that's few more changes added to the list. Every single one of those make me feel a little funnier about the whole thing and a little less stoked about it all. I also don't have my full face that I would usually use when I jump out of an aircraft because I only came here to base jump. So I have a climbing helmet, open face with goggles, and I'm worried about being cold, about my face being cold and like just generally uncomfortable. I found some glove. I try to layer up as much as I can. I get ready for it. I'm like, okay, shake it off. Happy days. You're with like a lot of people you like. Everyone is fucking next level killer. You're going to do something fun. Everything's good. And I also have like some form of like overconfidence going on a little bit and comfort, which comes from the fact that I'm just coming back from my heaviest, biggest Europe season where I did a endless list of things that were new to me and absolutely next level to me within my experience. I pushed a lot this season and I went super far and I did it successfully and I definitely feel super mega strong and
So what I
a little
hear,
overconfident.
what I hear here is that your intuition was like blaring all these warning signs, but then you're saying that you evened that out with this confidence that you had developed from all the recent activity. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Well,
like the relative
yes,
scale was
yes.
so far off.
Right.
Yes, I'm like, why are you worrying? None of this matter. You just went so hard. You're so goddamn strong. What could possibly... You're going to jump out of an helicopter. You've done this hundreds of times now. It's chill. This is a walk in the park. What could possibly go wrong?
As
So, yeah.
you guys are going through these changes, did anyone stop to reevaluate the entire thing? Or was it more of like, all right, let's just keep going, like on a 45-degree angle, continuing to charge?
No one there. I found out later that at least one person there, which happened to be the person I follow, actually did not feel it either and did not love the succession of changes either. And just like also had this just vibe that something's not right, not feeling it. But no one said anything and no one seemed bothered. And so here we go. Load one, loads the helicopter, and off we go. And we get to the line. We get to the mountain the line is on. We can see the mountain from where we are at this point. And we're all on radio, on comms in the alley, so we can all talk to each other. And so I hear the boys mentioning that it's in the shade. It's not looking that good. It's kind of sucky to fly this in the shade. It'd be nicer to fly in the sun. Let's go to that other line that is actually in the sun. And here comes the next changes. Let's change.
Oh, no.
Let's change the plan again because let's go and do another line that I know nothing about and we never talked about. And here we go. Let's go. So
now we got a live change on the target from the helicopter.
correct. At that point in time, I'm like, what am I doing here? I think is the first thing that crossed my mind. I'm like, yesterday was one of the biggest day of my life. I got approved for citizenship. I've had an amazing trip. I'm not even craving jumping right now because I'm so satisfied and I feel so good. And I'm so happy. And why am I here? This is not where I want to be. But here we go. Hey, cheer up. Don't be a party pooper. Get your shit together. Everyone is in the helicopter and we're about to go and it's showtime and it's good. It's all good. Let's go. So I'm not the first person to jump. So it's two ways. Plumber is following someone and I'm following another person. So we go for them to jump that other line which is in the sun. As we're high up, there's strong winds. I hear mention of pretty strong uppers, like 25 miles. When I hear that, there's another thing again, and I'm like, why? What am I still doing here? I'm not liking this. And this is when I turn to Plumber and I look at him and I gave him an X with my arm because I don't want to go. I don't think we should go. I think none of this is right and I don't want to go anymore. But the problem is the door is open and when you base jump, like you get into a flow state. I guess the state we get in is called flow state.
Yeah.
And so you're like in your zone, very like. So it's not that he didn't see me or didn't care. He was already somewhere else, And he's like, oh, she's not gonna jump, and he didn't think much about it. And he did his 2-way, and it looked turbulent, but it did good, and everything looked good, and it was fine. And so I'm like reconsidering my desire to bail and my ex because I just watched someone go and it's fine. And am I being dramatic or weird or complicated? And why am I feeling this way? And everyone else seems okay and no one's saying shit. And okay, let's go. And then the person I'm following is like, the wind, we should go and check out that other line we were originally going to do. So here the plan changes again. And
This is more doubt.
And we go back over to that line. And for a second I'm like, oh no, that's good. That's back to what I thought we were gonna do and I wanted to do. So that's good. That's positive. Let's go back there. And we go back there.
If you had not gone back, real quick, if you had not gone back and you had just made that X to Plammer, would you have exited the aircraft right there? Or would you have listened to your ex and said like, okay, that's it?
It's hard to tell. I actually did. The only answer I can give you is I don't know. I'm not sure. It could have been either way. I could have followed her because I would have been like, oh, well, it was fine. It went all right with them, even with the turbulences. So let's go. So I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually not sure. I might have still jumped just because I'm dumb enough.
So if you were first out of the aircraft, no way that you were going to go. I mean, you put the X there. That was like calling it, giving some, credence to all of the red flags that you had seen before. But then after that, there was several more pieces of information that could have convinced you that it was okay and another change. Is that what we're hearing?
Yes, correct.
All right.
So
Then what?
So
Damn, my palms are sweaty.
So then here we go. Yeah, we go back to the original plan, and the mistake is here too. I say plan. There were no plan. There were no plan. We were a team and we were not a team. We didn't plan. That was the last minute. I'm gonna follow you, buddy. Yeah, cool. That is it. That is as much of a plan as we made. Did we discuss how we'll be standing outside of the aircraft? How we exit? If we were going to go for line A or B? Nothing. We discussed absolutely nothing. So anyway, the plan. That's why I'm like, plan, not really a real thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I can relate to that for a second. Just to step in, tell me if this is what happened. But like, oftentimes when I get too far into a zone that I know is like unsustainable, like we're just taking unnecessary risk, and we've hit the fuck it button like so many times, that like if we go back and like try and do a semblance of a plan, it just doesn't make sense. Like it's just so ridiculous to even try, that at the stage that we're jumping, we're just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Is that kind of
words for words what I heard in my head? Here we go. Showtime, bitch. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a big bowl of word soup at that point.
Yeah. And there was no point, and so I'm like, so anyway, here we are. We are ready to exit the aircraft soon, I guess. I get off comm because I have this not full face helmet, this climbing helmet, and those goggles, and it's a little bit of a process to put this on without having it very dialed, where everything feels good, solid, holds my head, my My goggles are like not gonna move. Everything's happy days. So I got off com. I'm like, cool, cool, giving the thumbs up, get off com, get all my shit going. And then I sit there in the alley looking at my buddy. I'm gonna follow. I don't know what's being said at this point. I guess one of the things being said at this point is the wind is as garbage up there. I mean, garbage. It's not garbage. We have a 25 miles per hour headwind. Would I base jumping that shit? No, I wouldn't. But you know, heli jump, it's so much safer. But anyway, I'm not really aware of that. And I could be looking out of my side, I guess, out of the window.
Let me just jump in there. That's 40
really...
kilometers per hour for us Europeans, and you know, metric-based people. That's a lot of wind. 40k. All right, go.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of underestimate how much the uppers will affect a wingsuiter because they're like, oh, well, we're in free fall. Like, we're just going to be ripping through that. But, you know, if your suit, like at max glide, you know, is going 150 and then all of a sudden you lose 25 miles an hour off of that,
it's
substantial.
Gone. Yeah, it's gone. Try to fly into a strong headwind. You're going to like fly so weak, you're gonna feel like you genuinely gonna feel it. You feel like you're working against something. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, so I missed out. Will that change something at this point? Again, it's a maybe. I'm not, if I'm honest with myself, I'm not 100% sure. It might have made me give the X again and actually stick with it if I heard that. Or who knows, I would have still went. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to tell. I did not leave the moment, so I don't know exactly how I would have reacted in the moment. But here we are. I'm not looking around. I have no idea where we are. I did not look outside whatsoever. I'm just looking at my buddy. Hey, happy days, heli jump. I'm gonna fucking look at you and like, yeah, high five. Let's have fun. And so he starts climbing out and like, he points, he keeps pointing a direction for the pilot. It looks like the spot is not good yet, which in my head, I'm like, oh, cool, I guess we're good. Like, it, you know, he's solid. We're looking where we're going. We're almost there. He's getting us a little closer. So I'm like feeling a bit better. I'm like, cool, we're getting there. And then, cool, gives the sign, jump. To me, my most important job on that jump was like, as long as you're on him, everything is going to be perfect. Have a good exit right on him, just stick with him, and it's gonna be a good time. And so I actually have one of my best heli exit I've ever had, like literally on him, with him right away. What I'm not aware of, the whole time he knew that the spot wasn't ideal.
The spot, meaning where you got out of a helicopter above the mountain.
Yeah. We were short. We were nowhere near our A or B line. Like, nowhere near it. We could not make any of them where we were. So the spot was short. So he knew that, because like an idiot, I never looked, but he was the one outside looking, and so he knew. And so he jumped, and he was like, oh shit. And so he immediately aborted.
Wait, you could hear him say, oh shit? Or how, wait, what do you mean he said?
No.
Okay, I was like,
he
wait,
said,
what?
oh shit, physically by making an unplanned left turn to try and cross to the west of the ridge. And in this process, I got into his wake and I fell down.
Okay, so you were burbled. All right.
Yes.
I can't help but notice you're reading from notes right now. Is your memory clear?
My memory about it is really clear. I just want to be as
accurate.
This is important. And this is what a lot of person want to hear. Even though, like, to me, those details, what really happened, they're only so small compared to what's important to me. Is like the lessons. Well, the lessons we already gotten out of all this already. We started getting out. But I understand that people want to know the details and people are curious, and I was
Okay.
not wearing a camera. I don't have a video, so I'm trying to be as precise as I can.
I appreciate
so
that.
I like wrote it down to
Okay.
really say exactly what happened.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I encourage anyone to do that right after an incident. Like, please write things down because you will definitely need those details later when you start to process the event. You know, you go through this
Absolutely.
incredibly traumatic thing and your body will shift into just execution mode. And then after that, you're still going to have like a bunch of stuffed emotions that aren't going to be attributed to anything until you
Yes.
relive the details. And if you forget the details, then all that's going to come out in a very confusing way. So I highly recommend writing stuff down.
We have a lot of lessons from this. Let's dive back into this because this is we're right at the peak of the story here. So you've just
Okay.
exited. He moved, like did a hard left.
I would not call it a hard left. I would call it a turn significant enough for me to fall into his wake
Okay. All right.
at where I was. So I lost a bunch of altitude at that point. Also, the reason I wrote it down, there is a video of the incident. It's not mine. The person I was following was wearing a 360 camera. Before doing this podcast, Plummer told me, hey, maybe you want to watch the video before. That will make sense. So you can see your fact and what you've been saying and seeing the video and make sure how you feel and write it all down and be as precise as you can be. So I actually watched it for the first time yesterday. There's some stuff that I had learned, talking about it. There's some stuff I learned by watching it. Because on the moment, the wake, did I understand that he made a turn, that something was wrong, and he made a turn, and that turn burbled me? Absolutely not. I was like, fuck, what did I do wrong? Why did I fall in his wake? What a dummy. Let's come back. You've done this all the time. You're skydiving a lot these days. What do you have to do? Stare at the leader, come back to him. Easy. So what do I do after the wake? Do I ever look where I am? Nope. Never have a look. If I had a look, I would have noticed that that ridge was right there and I was not going to be able to cross it. But here we go. I come back. I'm like, come back, come back, come back. And I come back and I come back almost level and I'm almost to the side of him. And it's a point where I can finally look at him and see ahead. And what I did not notice as I was coming back from falling into the burble was that I was now heading towards the part of the ridge that has the rising terrain. I was on the side where it was
Wow.
the highest. Now,
So you reel him back in, and just so that we can cover that technical detail, because I think it's cool to know. How did you do that? Like you fall out on the burble and lose a bunch of altitude, and he's wingsuit base jumping, so he's potentially flying as fast as he possibly can. What did you do in order to catch up with
I
him?
got lucky. I assumed that by that point, he was probably feeling the headwind or something and was maybe a little slower because I feel like I came back to him pretty efficiently with what felt at the time like more power than he seemed to have. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I hit that wind. I slowed down, I saw ahead. And also, another important fact, between exiting the aircraft and me hitting the ridge, it was a little over 10 seconds. So not a whole lot of time, really. Not a lot of time to build speed. Speed is our friend in wingsuiting, as we hopefully all know. Speed is power. Power you can stack up and use later if you need it. I was like already in a line by that point. If I was already flying the way I usually fly, I would have flared up and hit nothing.
Yeah, interesting. Because like at this point, you get burbled and then you catch up. which means that you're flying more efficiently than the leader themselves. And now you find yourself on the side of the leader having a more efficient flight than them, looking at the high side of a ridge.
Yes.
Well, maybe that's only if they're following the same trajectory.
Which we're not, because I'm just staring at him thinking I'm going to fly on the right. And he's like staring at the point where he knows he can make the ridge. And I think he made it. I'd say, and I might not be fully accurate there, but I'd say I'm pretty close. He made it maybe 40, 50 feet.
Wow.
Okay, so wait, take us from the point of the story where you pull up next to him. Because you pull up next to him, you look over, right? You're still flying more efficiently, which even allows you to look over at him.
It feels, at that point, I'm looking at him. I feel I'm coming back strong. I feel he's not seeing me. I feel he's really focused. I suddenly doubt myself again after doubting myself after the bubble, being like, what have I done wrong? Now I'm like, oh, maybe he's not liking that I'm coming to the side of him like this. Maybe I should go back behind him to where I belong. And that's when I kind of decide, but all this happened so fast. I guess I kind of decide to slow down, but kind of also start seeing ahead and start feeling that headwind and see where I'm heading. And I can see that I have no way out and I have no speed to save myself.
Wow. So you end up in a position boxed in by the person you're following, because he's on your left, which is your escape to the low side of the ridge.
I think even if he was not there, I think it's too late for me to even change trajectory.
Gotcha.
Did you think about pitching? Did you think to pitch right there?
I did not, because I was too. There was no way I could have made it pitching. In my opinion, was I correct? Did I read the terrain correctly?
Who knows? Yeah.
I cannot attest of this. I cannot be sure. To me, at the time, my judgment made me go for try to fly your best, because that's your only chance out of here with where you are now.
Wow.
And you know, as soon as I saw him and I saw ahead, I didn't see him anymore. He was gone from the picture. Suddenly, a whole new focus came into my mind, right? That's it. I'm not doing a two-way. I'm not doing a line. I'm looking right in front of me, and I'm heading straight for death.
Holy
I'm just staring
shit.
at death now, and there's nothing else, you know? There's nothing else.
Did you recognize on the leader that he was already in that zone? Because when you tell that story and you look over at him, it seems like he's recognized that he's firmly in the death zone and just needing to just focus intently, not even shift his eye position from this impact zone to make it.
I think he realized, I think he knew the spot was short. He was not going to make the line, and he headed to what looked the best, and he assumed that I was following him in a good way. You know, he didn't know I fell in a wake. He didn't know I was on the wrong side of him. Like, he didn't know all that, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Extreme
a little
tunnel
over
vision there.
10 seconds. A little over 10 seconds. There's nothing. What can he do? He can't help me. He can't save me. He's not responsible for this. It's like we fucked up as a team. We planned super poorly, and here we are. We were a shit team, and we you know, why did I never look? I mean,
There's a lot of lessons we can go over again here, but let's go back to those moments before impact.
Yeah, and please, I got one for right before you hit this impact zone, because if, like Lo said, you weren't in a position to pitch, then you must have recognized that you were actually in the death zone. And that's an incredible place to be in a wingsuit, because it's so long. And everything else, when you're in the death zone, happens so quick. You know, you're dodging a bullet, or, you know, you get in a quick car accident or something. But in a wingsuit, you recognize that, like, you're in unsurvivable, unsustainable territory for multiple seconds. So my question is, like, where did your consciousness go when you recognized that pitching was not available and your only chance of survival was to get over this ridge?
So I did not. Pitching didn't even come into my head when I finally look ahead of me and pay attention to where I was, and realized it was too late for, like, literally only one thought crossed my mind. And words for words, that's went through my head. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going in. That was it.
Wow.
That was literally it. I didn't think about a million things. If I'm honest, there's not a million things that went through my head. I was not upset. I was not disappointed. I wasn't sad. I didn't think of what I could have done better or whatever. I just literally was having a little date with death. And I was staring at her in the eyes. And that's all I did. But I guess I do have some experience flying a wingsuit, and I guess you can't kick the instincts away and your body memory and the way you are as a person. And I guess I am a little bit of a fighter as a person, and I guess I don't completely suck at wingsuiting. And so automatically, without thinking about it, I just assumed the body position, which I thought was best at the time, I guess. And I decided I went the opposite. It's funny, I actually don't know how to say that. The opposite of dihedral.
Anhedral.
I kind of, anhedral, yeah. So I started pushing a little my hands down, trying to cut and try to I was like, I have no speed no matter what. I can't flare. So all I can do is try to cross this ridge as high as I can. So I'm going to go as flat as I can, because I know for a fact that right behind this impact point is just a really fucking steep mountain and I couldn't fly it.
Max
if
glide.
only I can
Get it.
There.
cross. So I went and the very last, not even second, less than that, split second, right before impact, I decided to relax my body and close my eyes.
Wow.
Because what else can I do, really? Just accept death. It's here now. So, yeah. So I did that. I closed my eyes and I relaxed. And I think that might be part of the reason I'm still here talking to you, maybe. You know, the drunk drivers, super chill in cars and they don't really get hurt. Maybe that helped me when I impacted and roly-poly down the mountain. I don't know. All I know is this. I hit the ridge with my chest because I was chest high when I impacted. I hit the ridge with my chest. I hit a snow cornice a day after I dumped snow in 4 feet of snow.
Ooh-wee.
The following day when I came out of the hospital and I saw the mountain, there was not enough snow to save my ass that day. So I got fucking lucky. It's what it comes down to as well. So I hit it with my chest in the right spot. And then it's hard to tell exactly, to me, I kind of vaguely maybe remember and feel like because of how my body felt, I kind of went over. Anyway, I went down that mountain about 100 feet. During that descent, I met a bunch of rocks with my head because I cut my nose off my face. It was barely hanging. I lost 2 teeth. I killed one. I had bruises on the side of my head. My neck was completely jacked. My helmet had impact on each side, on each temple that were pretty significant, one on top. But yeah, as I already said at the beginning, not a scratch or a bruise past my head.
Did you lose consciousness at any point?
It's hard to tell you if I did.
Okay.
I did forget things. Right after impact, I don't really remember things. I kind of feel like I remember, my body remembers a tumble, but I can't really tell. But that doesn't necessarily mean I lost consciousness,
Sure.
because I've already had a concussion before and I was fully awake the whole time and I forgot things
Yeah.
that happened during that time. So it doesn't mean, so who knows? All I know is this. I came back to my head and to the world. I was on my ass with one of my friends sitting. The ridge is like the mountain is super steep, so I'm kind of like I'm in the position where I can be, and I'm kind of on my back, and it feels like sitting because everything is so steep. And I look to the side of me, and there's one of my friends who was in the helicopter when the ordeal happened, who was sure that he watched me die. And he's there, and I can see him talking on the phone, and that's all I remember. So between like kind of the tumble and this, did I lose consciousness? I don't know. I definitely do not remember those minutes and this time.
Okay, so it was a series of minutes after your impact to when you regained, semblance of consciousness.
Yes, it's some time because there's basically two people in the helicopter, the pilot and another friend, and they both watched this. And of course, they just watched me die. So, an helicopter pilot dropped the other friend next to me, and then flies to my boyfriend Plummer to tell him, "Hey, jump in. We need to go and recover Taz's body." She just went in.
Holy, okay, because he didn't know otherwise. He didn't know one way or the other if you were alive. He just, obviously we're all going to assume
No
you're
idea.
dead.
He
Yeah.
just had a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he personally just had a jump. Like, my boyfriend has no idea what just happened. He didn't witness anything. He assumed I just jump and everything's fine, right? He could not see anything. He has no idea. We're on a different mountain.
Okay.
He doesn't know. So he get picked up, put in the helicopter. By the time they are back and he get dropped, I'm back, right? I'm here. And what I heard later is that, they saw me impact. They saw the snow explosion. They were sure I was dead, except that within seconds, they saw my body move. And so they assume it might just be, when you die, things still happen afterwards. So it could have just been my body doing things, even
Right.
though I'm not here anymore.
Neurological
But turns
activity.
Absolutely. But turns out, no, I was here, and they dropped Plummer, and Plummer came to me and hugged me, held my nose to try to hold it into place. And then apparently and at that point, obviously, who knows, I'm completely unhurt. That all I did was to take my nose off my face and lose some teeth because I just went in. So I must have destroyed my back or my neck. Let's be real. There is no way
Right.
I'm not hurt, right? There's no way I'm not hurt. It doesn't make sense. So he's like holding me, kissing my head, trying to chill me. And then suddenly I'm like, get the fuck out of the way, or whatever it is that I say. And I grab him really hard and I push him away with a lot of strength. And I stand up and I start puking blood. And everyone is like, I
Terrifying.
guess
What a
she's
sight.
all
Holy
right.
shit.
Everyone is very confused. Mama is like, fuck, that was a lot of strength. Maybe her back and her neck are not hurt. Maybe she's okay. Meanwhile, our Ellie is getting a rescue Ellie. All of this. Also, I'd like to mention this. Did my two-way and my team in that sense, did we do garbage work? Did we kind of suck that day? Yeah. When shit happened, did the A-team came together and absolutely crushed it? Unbelievable. The reaction of everyone, the way everyone handled everything, incredible. Absolutely mind-blowing. Between me hitting the ridge and me being in hospital, being taken care of already, 1 hour.
Wow.
That golden hour.
That's
Nice.
it. So
Way to go, team.
Anyway, they got the rescue heli. The rescue heli came to get me. They got me on the long line, and they got me to the hospital. And I don't know.
I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking about you with no nose on your face, standing up, puking blood with a wingsuit on. Oh, man, what a sight. Plummer on the longest heli ride of his life. What a scene right there. Oh my God. What a roller coaster ride.
man.
Holy shit.
And if you've never met Taz, that's pretty appropriate. She's such a gangster.
But you know what's funny? This
Oh,
exactly
man.
what you just say. It's so important to everyone keeps hugging me and asking me how I am. Can you please do the same for Plumber? Because, like,
Yeah, poor guy.
dude, that was worse for him. That was all I did was like face my mistake, accept death, not be dead, and be pretty alright weeks later. You know, I mean, has it been hard? I've had upside down death, of course, let's be real. But the poor guy, he heard I was dead, then he came back, I looked dead, then I looked like a literal fucking zombie out of an apocalypse. And then, you know, all the shit we went through. And like, I don't feel people give enough importance, like, to the people around the fatalities or the accident. It's fucking traumatic. Everyone who was there that day is still struggling with it. Like, everyone
Yeah.
needs a hug.
I imagine. And
Give them hugs.
we're going to give tons of hugs to these people. And that is an interesting point to make, is that you only believed you were dead for a little bit, like a couple seconds, and then you knew you were alive. And he had that whole helicopter ride to consider that he had just lost one of the loves of his
And
life.
let's be real,
That
must have felt like
Yeah.
100 hours, that early ride. At least, I'm only assuming,
Yeah.
but probably the slowest ever. So, yeah.
You know, there's something else there too. You're relaxing before impact is something that's weighing very heavily on my mind in a positive way. Like, it just seemed like you were ready. You know, like you were ready to confront the unknown. And yeah, I don't know if I have the words for that, but that is something very special.
You remember the
Well, let's ask this.
you remember the beginning of the podcast, the Kevin story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty aware of the risk. When I say I accepted the risk that comes with the activity I decide to practice, I'm serious. I know them. I've seen them. I accept them. So when it came, I just accepted it. Because that's it.
You know, we have a lot of people that say that, but I think that you've just proven it to us in a very real way.
Definitely. And there's a difference. There's a distinct difference between somebody that says they're not afraid to die and that they've reconciled their own death, having not seen something like that happen, as compared to you who lived the ultimate tragedy. You know, I mean, if you're in love with somebody and they go in, I mean, you basically go in with them.
Correct.
You know, you lose a piece of yourself. And so effectively, like, you were forced to reconcile that
Correct.
death.
You're a new person, there is no doubt.
I think
Yeah.
that's interesting.
And that came with it, and all my
Yeah. You know, I've been around some fatalities, and I've watched a series of, you know, fatality videos, and not everybody relaxes
I
before
know,
impact.
Kevin scream.
And I think I don't want to make any judgment on that, but I hope if I come to that point that I'll follow the path that you took. That's I don't know. That's for me.
I think
Important.
I just didn't regret anything. I think it's gonna sound weird to say that because it's kind of contradictory, but I accepted death because I'm so happy with life. Everything's good. I don't regret anything right now. I'm genuinely stoked. I living life the way I want to live it every day. I have an amazing partner. I have amazing friends. I love my job. I love what I do. I just like I had nothing to regret and be scared of. I did it. I don't know. I did it. I did life pretty good. And I on top of that, I guess to do it again. So awesome. I guess, yeah, let's do life again.
Well, that leads directly into a question that we normally ask at the end of this podcast, but I think it's an appropriate time to ask it now. Are you afraid of dying base jumping?
And then I am going to have to say that again. I didn't pull. I'm not scared of dying.
Okay, so clearly not if you didn't pull.
That is kind of a joke, but no. I'm not. And I'm not suicidal. like I'm very much not suicidal as a person. I used to be super depressed. I had horrible times in my life. Some stuff I've been out actually following this accident. For 3 weeks, I just felt guilty, and felt like I wanted to die and should die. But I'm not suicidal. I'm happy. I'm just not scared of death. It's part of life. Just live life to the fullest. Like if every day was the last, and hopefully when that last day come, you won't regret anything, and you won't be scared.
I think there's a distinct difference between somebody accepting death and somebody wanting to die, and yet our society usually lumps those two into the same category.
So different. It's so different.
That is a beautiful ethos. But let me ask you, since the accident, have you changed your perspective in any way? I mean, do you feel like you're living on borrowed time? Do you feel like, wow, I got my golden ticket and now I've got to change my ways? I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth here. Tell me,
No.
do you feel like there has been any change since?
Yes. So first of all, I don't know if it's the fact that I faced death or the concussion. I can't tell you, but some things have changed with my brain. I am definitely different. Some of those changes are awesome. I feel I have a lot more patience and kindness for people in general. And the other one is life looks like I'm on mushrooms all day. Everything looks so beautiful and fucking sparkles. So there's that. And then my attitude with jumping, this is gonna sound weird, but I made a big mistake. I definitely learned from it. I think I'm obviously gonna be, again, a little safer, like every time I had the chance to make a little mistake and learn from it. But I don't feel different. And if one thing, I feel even more at peace. There has been time where I was like, why am I base jumping? Why am I doing this? And I know some people I love think it's fucking stupid. But that to me proved that I'm making the right choice. And yeah, let's roll with it. I don't want to be more aggressive or more stupid, but I'm ready to carry on just the same and keep me living my passion, which feels even more like a passion now. There is no doubt. The fact that I felt so at peace after it all just confirms the fact that I love it and I want to keep doing it.
Well, you just briefly mentioned mistakes, and let's go back to that for a second. We just heard the whole story, and it is incredibly dramatic. And now maybe we can go back and get the hit list of the mistakes that were made along the chain, because quite honestly, all of us are going to find ourselves in this type of flow at one point, and it's just about trying to shift off of that path somehow. And so if you can recognize when you're on that unsustainable path and those mistakes coming, you can, knock out one of those dominoes before it, continues to disrupt the entire chain. So can you take us through just the hit list of mistakes and the lessons that you learned from them?
Yes. Number one, a list of changes. I think this often happen, like thing changing a lot. It's not good. Or you need to at least sit down and reevaluate properly and not take it just like over your head like it didn't matter. Pay attention to changes, why are they happening? Are you okay with them? Is this still something you want to do? Is there still something safe? Like, I don't know. A series of changes matters. Make proper plans. Every jump matter. It's not because you wingsuit a super gnarly wingsuit exit and make it in style that you can nail an heli line, because those are two completely different skills. Know the skills you have and do they fit the job. And if they don't, it's okay. It doesn't mean you can't do the job. It means you need to learn, you need to ask questions, you need to maybe plan a little differently. So better planning, make plans, communication. So like, as I say, I'll say it again, too many people think heli lines are easier than base jump. I'm sorry, in my opinion, it's incorrect. That's not true.
I totally agree with
There's
you.
more that goes
There's
to
a
it.
level of complexity.
So complex.
There's a level of complexity there that's, like where I live, I have the opportunity to do a lot of single parachute jumping from fixed aircraft and helicopters. It's easy to get to here, so I have a decent amount of experience jumping from them. And there's this like from the air mass, like you're talking about, can be different. You can have high upper winds that are different from what's happening on the ground or the terrain, and even the terrain can change significantly. And then the depth perception that we're faced with is significantly
So
different than base jumping.
confusing.
Like
The depth perception is something that
it's
got
very
me on this
confusing.
jump because snow as well. Another level of like, let me
Right.
fuck your depth perception. And then
Absolutely. We're used to jumping over trees. Now there's snow. It totally changes the equation. We're used to jumping over desert, and then we're jumping over trees. Everything changes. Yeah, the depth perception is
Yes.
real.
All right. So far we've got, that changes in the plan are inevitable, but if they do happen, reevaluating the entire event, like from
Yes.
start to finish, saying like, okay, we've got this change. Now everyone take a minute to reevaluate and reassess the risk, and let's come back together and see if we still want to do this. And then we also have borrowing confidence from like former selves or from past events and bringing it into the world that you're currently in. A lot of us are like, well, I was a dope dick swooper, so that means that I'm going to be able to fly this parachute no problem. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, you're dope dick at that thing, but this is a totally new parachute in a totally new context. So like, or like the more the more common one is like, dude, we just got away with that. Well, everything behind what we just got away with should be cheese. Like, we just survived a 150-foot free fall into a cityscape, and now we're going to go to Moab, and it's like, oh, that's a 210-foot cliff. That's way easier than what we just survived. So, like, why would I care
Correct.
at all? And the answer is like, you should care. Those things don't transfer that way. Just because you got away with it once, or just because you're exceptionally good at one particular element, doesn't mean that on any given day at any given time you're just going to nail it.
Also, don't compare everything. Everything's different. You don't need to be like, I've done this, so now I can do that. Stop comparing. Respect every jump and take every experience as a new one, because it is. Even the same exit 10 times in a row is different every time. So like, respect every jump. I also had lost respect for skydiving for a hot second, because like, I base jump a lot. I used to base jump more than I skydive. So I was like, skydiving, who cares? Well, up until I, cut away at 800 feet, could not find my reserve handle. And, landed right by my main, fully zipped up on a taxiway. So, you're like, ha ha ha, it's all fun and games. Every jump should get some respect. And respect doesn't mean being scared. I'm pretty fearless. I'm never really scared when I'm jumping, really. I don't really get that feeling. But I still try to have respect for everything. And even, I've done this jump 15 times. I'm still gonna look down. I'm still gonna observe everything. I'm still gonna give myself at least 10 minutes to check the conditions. Still gonna look at my line, go through my head what I'm going to go through, even though I've done it a million times. Respect for the jump.
You've poo-pooed skydiving a couple of times here, and like, let's just paint an accurate picture for the listeners. How many skydives do you have in the last 2 years?
I done most of all my skydives in the last 2 years. No, in the last
So
three.
a lot. You've done a lot.
I don't have a
skydiving
ton of them.
lately.
I have 1,500 skydive. When I started working with Squirrel, which was about 3 years ago, I had 300 skydives.
So you've been jumping your ass off.
Yeah, because I started hanging out with people who can do it, and turns out it's fucking fun, and I love
It's
it. And
absolutely
you
amazing.
learn a ton.
Yeah, I just wanted
and it's the
to
best.
throw that across.
Yeah, I love it. No.
So back to the lessons at hand, we've spoken to two aspects that seem to be under the banner of discipline. What other things can we learn from this incident?
What was the other? Oh, it's really big to me. I think in base it happens a lot. I think we're very observant people of our body, of our brain, because of what we do. Gut, gut feelings. Gut feeling is a thing you should trust. I had a bad gut feeling as soon as we got in that hangar, and then everything that followed made it worse. And my gut made me give the X, and my gut made me not want to jump, and I didn't listen, and I still went. And turns out the person I was following felt the same and did not listen either.
Man, that's so interesting.
Trust your feelings. Trust your feelings.
Yeah.
If you don't feel a jump, it doesn't matter. Who cares? You're walking away, you're turning around, and you change your mind. Who gives a fuck? No one actually does. So trust your feelings and turn around if how it feels at that point. Turn around. Come back later.
Yeah, the only jumps that I've had that have gone awry have been preceded by emotions that I just ignored, which is so interesting because, like, if you listen to those emotions,
Every time.
you can really never be wrong. You know, like walking down from a jump, like, you can't really be wrong about that. You live to, die another day. But if you ignore them, even if
Yeah.
it works out, I think you're wrong 100% of the time. Like, if you've trained your brain and your body to just like throw those emotions aside, eventually those indicators aren't going to be there at all, and you're going to find yourself in some pretty scary territory.
Absolutely. And I think that,
Correct.
intuition is something that we definitely need to listen to, and I don't want to, Monday morning quarterback this incident too hard here, because I respect everybody that was there. And, I could probably have done the same thing, but, leaving it to feeling is not always the best option. And we've talked about this before on this podcast, Matt, where for me, my rules, it's like three red flags and the whole thing's shut down. And I don't leave it to feeling. It's like, if I leave it for feeling, because what you, like in your words, Taz, you were in flow, which is what? A perfect balance between anxiety and bliss. So we can't often rely on our feelings to give us those directions. That's for me.
Totally, I agree with that. And I think some different jumpers have different feelings. I do jump with people who are good jumpers, but they get a lot more emotion on exit than I do. So maybe they can't really just listen to their guts and their feelings because there's like too much going on in them.
Yeah.
I feel like I should trust my guts. They're pretty spot on. They've been, obviously, that's not just what's responsible, but it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, I have the 3 flags rule too, and how many did I put down that day? Fucking
Yeah.
15. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's personal. I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I would
Yeah.
say that even if all the flags are green and you still don't feel it, that
Don't
is
go.
a solid reason not to jump, because like those emotions
Also,
are
it's
there
not,
for that purpose.
and it's not that fun, and that's when you might make mistakes. Because I've seen people being a little too scared or not confident or whatever, and then I watch them react poorly when something happened because of those emotions. So it could potentially hurt you to have too much going on as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
like I try and advise people to be base jumping at 75% of both their skill set and their emotional load. And if you're standing on, an exit point and your emotional load is at 110, then you don't have a whole lot to deal with situations as they go awry.
Well, Taz, I think we could continue talking about this for hours, and for the benefit of the listeners and this podcast, why don't we wrap it up? And first, I just want to say thank you for having the trust in us and this platform, for sharing with us, because I know you're quite an introverted person, and this is probably, like, talking about this is more scary than actually jumping.
Correct.
Did you have some anxiety coming into this, or?
Yes, many, many, many. I almost messaged Blank this morning being like, I think it's a bad idea. But then a series of events just, I don't like doing that stuff. I hate putting myself out there. I'm definitely introvert. I think a lot of people struggle to see this in me because of the way I look, but I'm actually extremely introvert. And it was hard, but something happened that is like kind of a big deal. One, like, a lot of people are curious about it. 2, there's lesson to be learned. So I kind of had no choice, I feel like. but and it's with good friends, so it was easier too.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about all of this stuff, not only for everyone listening, but for me and for you and for, the sport in general. I'd like to close out by first saying that you have one of the most interesting stories of ever. Your life story, your story in base jumping, it's an incredible story arc. And I'd like to know if somebody were to like listen or read or be able to encapsulate like all of your story, what in particular would you like them to take away from that story? What do you want to leave behind? And what would you like your base jumping career to have spoken for?
That's such a heavy question. Um, Fuck. I I don't know. I don't. It's funny. I don't think I'm trying to leave anything behind. I think I'm just trying to take care of the people who are around me now and be happy and be kind and try to make this sport that I love a little easier and better for everyone. But I'm not really trying to leave something behind. I'm just doing it here and now. And when I'm gone, I'm gone. Who cares? But yeah, just be happy and be kind
I like
and
that.
help people around you.
I think that message is a beautiful legacy in itself.
Yeah, right there. Take care of the ones around you. Do it now.
Have a
Yeah,
good fucking time.
that's it. That's it.
Because you never know when they're going to be gone.
No, you have no idea. And you might think they're gone and then they're not.
No. Oh yeah, man. I guess one last question then. How do you feel about being called a fallen angel? I know that's the term that we came up with to describe you and I think only 3 other people. Is that correct? Only 3 other people who have survived something like this?
I don't really, I'm not entirely sure. I know of people who have gone through something similar. I know there have been a ton of incidents, but with some tree CAs, like parachute being opened by trees. So I don't know. Are we making like one category of people who really had nothing out and literally
Yeah.
just, or just, okay.
Survive
Sliding
nothing
on
I
their
think there's,
belly, being a
I
penguin,
guess,
and living.
I get,
Yeah.
I guess one of us did it as a stunt and actually did good, and kept his nose on, and then I think 3 of us got a little fucked up but survived. Yeah, that's a small club.
Yeah. Fewer people than have been to the moon.
Yeah,
It's quite
And
an
so,
exclusive
but
group.
yeah,
yeah, how does it feel to be called a fallen angel and
I
put
don't
that
know. I'm
title
not.
on?
It depends how it's. What does that mean? What's a fallen angel then?
Well, to us, and this is what we described in the intro, was somebody that's gone so far into the death zone that their consciousness literally detached from themselves for a little moment to, kind of watch their body acting in the world.
Oh yeah,
And then
yeah,
by luck and by incredible skill and by divine intervention got transported back into their body. So figuratively you were basically almost an angel and then you got sent back.
You were
I like
rejected.
it.
You got spit out at the pearly
I
gates,
like
and
it.
all right.
No, that was a good explanation. I accept being part of that. I think that works for me.
Nice.
I mean, I accept what happened. I regret nothing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, she regrets nothing and she is literally an angel in my book. So if you ever see Taz around the block, give her a hug and also a hug to Plammer and everyone else that was on that jump if you ever learn who those people are.
Thanks for the podcast, Taz, and thanks for still being here with us.
Thank you.
Well, Matt, that was quite an episode. What a story.
Yeah, incredible story and incredible insights from that story. I think, there are very few people that have lived through that. So I think we're incredibly lucky to have gotten that perspective.
Yeah, I'm really flattered and honored that she was felt comfortable and willing to share her story with us and with everybody here listening. And yeah, what an incredible thing. I would like to spend some time at some point going over, best practices and some more of the tidbits that we learned on this episode. But I think for now, um, it's time to digest what we've heard.
Yeah, and also for everyone out there, I know that we highlighted a lot of mistakes here, and that's something that I really want to commend Taz for doing. No jump goes off without mistakes, and the effective jumper, the sustainable jumper, admits those mistakes early and often. So while you might be listening to that story is thinking like, "Oh, that's never going to be me. I'll definitely avoid all of that mistake." Like that is quite literally how you get into the complacency mindset. So like I make those mistakes, she makes those mistakes, everyone will make similar ones. It's just about being ahead of them at the time, and then once you make them, admitting them so you don't repeat them again.
Well said, man. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And also, this podcast was co-produced and edited by Mark Stockwell. So big shout out to him, and thanks for all his hard work in this. Thanks for everybody listening. And until next time.